You're watching Forget Being Cool.
It's using that phantom power.
Welcome to Listening In, the place where music checks in.
Hi, Josh.
Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Oh, it's spectacular. It's Listening In, the place where music checks in. I'm Dave Moore. That's Josh Weinberg. Hi, Josh.
Hello, everybody.
We picked an album as we do every single week, and by we I mean I picked an album this week. And,
in this case, yes, you.
Let's clarify. It's important to the listeners to know who picks the music every week. And I'll tell you, I picked this album specifically for the track "In Too Far," but because you love the background of music more than I think you love music itself.
That's not true. It's about 50-50 if we're being honest.
Why don't you tell me what you found about this album, about this artist, because I know you sent me a link that I didn't read.
That's okay. I'll summarize it real quick here. So, on today's episode of Listening In, we are covering the debut album from Washington rock band Acceptance, Phantoms. And Acceptance they were from Seattle. They have ties to Anne Boleyn and a couple of other, I think, like West Coast rock bands in the mid-2000s. Yeah, like some stuff in Seattle. You got Gatsby's American Dream. You got your Hangnails, your Spill Canvases, your Thunder Thunders. But basically, the main thing is that one of the former guitarists of Anne Boleyn was in this band. So that's why this album does kind of lean toward the almost Christian rock a little bit without the religious subtext, which if you like Anne Boleyn, but you don't like a lot of the possible Christian overtones or undertones of their first couple of albums, aka their latter work, then you might really like this album because, Dave, you actually picked something that's pretty good.
Well, I liked it. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of tracks on here that I like, particularly the first. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tracks.
So in terms of what I got to get a little bit more into the background because this album, there's a little bit of some controversy surrounding it. And there's a lot of ultimately this album's success and ultimately the band's success really took a hit because of mismanagement from the label and also some not so nice things that Columbia did to their music around 2005. So first off, this album initially leaked about 9 months before it was supposed to come out. So instead of people hearing it in April 2005, people probably heard it online in July of 2004. So there was already that strike going against them.
Now here's my question. How did it leak in 2004?
I'm guessing that somehow it leaked online.
Like early Napster days? I mean,
it's very possible.
This is kind of late Napster, I guess. We're talking 2004, but that's crazy. I mean, that's crazy because of the time. Like, stuff leaks all the time now. This is just a standard practice of creating any kind of media.
Well, yeah, especially now with the digital age, streaming. I got your Apple Music and Spotify and Bandcamp and all that.
Right. It's
way easier to get a hold of stuff and for artists to easily self-release their own things and be able to have a much more stable platform without having to go through any of the major label stuff. But it gets worse.
Okay.
Because in 2005, Sony BMG was found to have put spyware on a lot of their releases from that year, including this album.
Oh, weird.
As a result, it was pulled from circulation and never properly re-released, although on the metadata on streaming services lists it as Sony BMG. But basically, when you put the CD into a computer, they would actually install one of two pieces of software that had some DRM on it, and it would modify your operating system so you wouldn't be able to copy it. And of course, this was the mid-2000s when a lot of record labels were trying to combat CD piracy and people burning CDs and ripping stuff.
I want to hunt this down now. Now it has some weird secret value. It's almost rare that it only got released once.
The funny thing is, there was, I think, a vinyl release of this a couple years ago, and it sold out pretty fast. Like, this thing has actually gotten a bit of a cult following, and the fact that as of 2017, it's actually sold, at least in the United States, over 100,000 copies. So that's not bad for some pop rock, quasi pop punk album from the mid-aughts. And
That if we want to get into that, that's my biggest complaint, Josh.
it sounds like a pop rock, pop punk album from the mid-aughts.
The whole time,
Not surprised.
every bit of it, and it almost becomes the way that I criticized the album last week. It becomes like this. It's like this cookie cutter kind of style. Like somebody said, "Go make this kind of album," and they said, "Okay," and they made this album.
Yeah, there's some mismatching in here. My thing, and also this speaks to Columbia's mismanaging the band. Columbia Records, of course, the record label the band was on at the time, they wanted the band to have Different as their first single, which is the main ballad on this album. Now, you listen to Different, and you listen to what was the second single, the opener Take Cover, somebody screwed up.
Yeah.
Like, I listened to Take Cover, and I'd say that grew on me quite a bit. And also, another thing about things not really fitting, is it just me, or does the opening of So Contagious sound exactly like the opening to Behind These Hazel Eyes by Kelly Clarkson, which coincidentally was probably recorded around the same time they were working on this album?
I was going to ask you that. I wonder if there's some sort of crossover in the writing department.
I mean, I don't know, but again, at the time, Kelly Clarkson was on RCA, which is a Sony label. They were on Columbia.
Right, also Sony label. So a little bit of maybe, cross-writing going on over there, kind of like the, the Spyro songs are the same as the Amanda Show. Just throwing it out there.
The weird thing, though, is how, for me, there's some songs that are a little bit more, there's some rock stuff in there, and I think near the back end, I think one of my favorite songs on the album is Permanent, just because of like the way Jason Vina's vocals are tracked on this album. The harmonies are pretty good on some of them, and the high notes, especially on Permanent, it's permanent. It almost reminds me a little bit of Fall Out Boy. Just a little bit.
I agree with you, but when we get to tracks like In the Cold and these end of the back, they start to feel like, I don't know, super generic, not as catchy. Like,
yeah,
the openers here, I like Different. Don't get me wrong. I think Different's a good track.
It's okay.
It's not
but
great.
I think compared to like Take Cover and In Too Far and The Letter, I actually found myself really enjoying that one.
I love In Too Far. That's the reason I picked this album. In Too Far has been in my library probably since 2005. Like, for real. And it's always been one of these songs that you go, man, I've never listened to any of their other music. I need to listen to this. So I was going through my Spotify going, what album do I want to make Josh listen to? And
I think the sign of the missed potential on here, though, is that the instrumental track, Ad Astra per Aspera, is actually really good because it's got the traveling drums going. It's a little bit more, there's a little bit more tension. But then it goes right into This Conversation Is Over, and I'm seeing a lot of songs about like, oh, I'm breaking up with you. Oh, I think I'm falling in love with you. It's like, I agree with the genericism on the back end.
Yeah, it's just a little bit like...
And Breathless. I kind of like Breathless a little bit.
I don't. And see, it's where they kind of lose me. They definitely lose me after Different, too. Like, basically, any track after that, although I would agree with you for Permanent. I would completely agree with you about Permanent. Those rest of those tracks on the album start to just go, it's okay. It's okay. It's another kind of samey rock pop album.
With Permanent and another song sounding like a different song, the opening reminded me a lot of Nice Guys Finish Last by Green Day. Had that same... I mean, the drums were doing something a little different before it sort of kicked in, but sounds similar. I think the closer, Glory Us... I'm just kind of like, I could do without that one. That feels like the most religious of the songs on here.
It's definitely religious. I get there and I go, yep, I'm glad I'm done listening to this for the fourth time. That's okay. I think the album is mixed beautifully. Beautiful.
It's mixed pretty well. I mean, Aaron Sprinkle does a good job. He's worked with a bunch of acts in this, I guess, lane, I would say. I mean, he also does some piano on the album, which is pretty notable on Take Cover itself. So
yeah, I love Take Cover. And I would also say these are the kind of songs, just to lean back into our previous show that we used to do together, Josh. These are the songs that rock hard and Rock Band. I know none of these are.
Which, it's funny you bring that up because the singer of this band actually did vocals on a Rock Band Network song by a band called Ivory Line, The Healing. And I didn't find that out. I found that out, and I remember, oh, okay, this guy sings in this band called Acceptance, who the guitarist is in Anne Boleyn. And then as soon as you brought that, I'm like, oh, it all makes sense now. Everything's connected.
Yeah, and I know that none of these tracks are available there to play, but these are those kind of songs that you like want to like jam to with your friends. Anyway,
Yeah,
Josh, I'm thrilled I picked something you really liked.
I mean, I would say that overall Phantoms is a little bit, it's not super long, mind you, but I feel like the back end, it gets a little generic, but I'd say it's slightly above average. It's like there's some good stuff here, but there needs to be a little bit more refined here for it to be in the great territory, but I certainly liked it more than Spectre at the Feast.
They need to go in and maybe just find a little bit more catch somewhere in a couple of the tracks. But my recommendation for the listeners is to go give this album a listen and pick and choose the songs you like. Because I think
off note, they did put out a new album in 2017. So if you're curious to see where Acceptance is at now, check it out. It's called Colliding by Design.
Right, and we don't usually pick new things, not always. I have not given that a listen. I probably will this week, regardless of what we pick, just out of curiosity for myself.
That's
but
perfectly fine.
And we'll talk about it in 10 years from now on listening in. That's a thing that'll probably happen. I'm Dave Moore. That's Josh Weinberg. You guys have checked in with us here at Listening In. Of course, as always, you guys go give this album a listen. It's in our playlist where the links are in the description. Leave your comments down below what you guys thought of it. You pick your favorite tracks. Tell us what you guys think we should listen to. All those things down below. And we'll see you guys next week. Hope you'll check in with us at Listening In.
Remember, nothing is permanent.
For more great discussions, hit that subscribe button or visit forgetbeingcool.com.